Slow-moving Typhoon Koinu is edging closer to Hong Kong. Fallen rocks from earlier rainstorm are still blocking the road. Meeting between Xi Jinping and Joe Biden is quite possible. Good evening and welcome to TVB News. Severe typhoon Koinu is gradually getting closer to Hong Kong. As of 6 p.m., it was centered about 170 kilometers southeast of Hong Kong and is forecast to move west slowly across the coastal areas of Guangdong. The strong wind signal number 3 is set to remain in force until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Under the influence of Koinu, strong winds are prevailing offshore and on high ground locally. Koinu is relatively slow-moving and its circulation is rather compact. Its associated gale winds will keep some distance from Hong Kong. The strong wind signal number 3 will remain in force at least until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning.
According to the present forecast track, severe Typhoon Koinu will skirt within 150 kilometers south of Hong Kong tonight and tomorrow, with the possibility of getting closer to the vicinity of the Pearl River estuary. Despite the approaching typhoon, the weather was not too bad in the afternoon, and many citizens were seen heading out as usual. Jackie Lin starts us off tonight.
As severe Typhoon Koinu edges closer to Hong Kong, the city saw more clouds, but the weather has yet to worsen on Saturday. Still some swells in the waters of Saiwan. Under the combined influence of the rain band brought on by Koinu and the seasonal monsoon, some districts saw some showers with more coolness in the air. On Saturday afternoon, the observatory recorded temperatures around the mid-20s. Despite the winds and gusts, citizens are out and about here in Wan Chai. Similarly bustling sights here in Tsim Sha Tsui. Ms. Ma here said it's not that blustery for now and will head back home when the weather worsens. Knowing Typhoon Koinu will be the closest to Hong Kong tomorrow, she says she has cancelled all plans for Sunday. Over in Wong Tai Sin, which was devastated by floodwater under the black rainstorm last month, one of the hardest hit locations, the basement at Temple Mall remains off limits and covered by white plastic cloths. More flood prevention efforts are in place with flood barriers and sandbags prepared along the stairs, leaving just a ramp for people to pass through. Workers too seen toiling away to clear the draining system. More MTR staff were deployed at Wong Tai Sin Station to give directions for passengers. At another flood-prone neighborhood, Heng Fa Chun in Chai Wan, areas near the shorelines have been cordoned off. This resident said it's rare to see another typhoon now when it's already October. Some think both the citizens and the government have battened down the hatches and are better prepared to ride out the storms.
I feel like now people are going to be more prepared because they've already been through Typhoon 10 and a lot of other things recently.
We have really a very serious situation and very painful experience as well.
Last time, right?
The last time.
This time it will be
more prepared.
Okay. So you're not too worried, right?
Not really too worried. I think everybody learns from experience, right?
My parents don't want there to be typhoon because they want me to go to class.
But you like typhoon personally, right?
Yeah, I like the typhoon because I can stay at home.
The Home Affairs Bureau said their officers across 18 districts have been working closely with relevant departments to carry out preventive measures, especially in low-lying and flood-prone districts. They include clearing the drains and the provision of sandbags as well as flood barriers. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
The cleanup work from last month's heavy rainstorm remains unfinished on New Hing Road in Shau Kei Wan, which was damaged by a landslide. Secretary for Transport and Logistics Lam Sai Hung said the work required to repair the damaged hillside nearby is difficult and high risk. Timothy Lee has more.
Yu Hing Road next to Yu Tong Estate in Shau Kei Wan experienced some of the worst that the October 8th's black rainstorm signal brought to the city. The landslide covered the road with heaps of giant rocks, tree branches, and debris that have yet to be cleaned up. The road also remains closed off to the public. Authorities have placed containers in the area that could support the rocks that could potentially tumble down the hillside. Some local residents said they were worried if another landslide will happen upon the arrival of Typhoon Koinu. This woman said she is scared the rocks might fall again if there is heavy rain. Besides fears of another landslide, many residents have lost access to the bus stop on the road and need to travel on another path to leave the hill. This man said the situation has caused him much inconvenience. While this man said it's a hassle to buy groceries downhill, but no one dares to handle the rocks because it's too dangerous. Secretary for Transport and Logistics Lam Sai-hung wrote in a blog post that he understood the problems caused by the road blockage and has already sought to speed up the cleanup effort under safe conditions. The transport chief noted the process to remove the rocks and debris are immensely difficult and poses a high risk. He said the safety of the public and workers are the priority. As of now, contractors under the Highways Department have cleared around 150 tons of debris and rocks covering Yuhing Road to provide for space to install a safety net. The workers will then step up efforts to use pins to secure the rocks on the hillside, as well as other cleanup work such as using chemicals to further break down the debris. The work on the road will be assessed by the Geotechnical Engineering Office and reopen only under safe circumstances. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
According to the Immigration Department, some 1.1 million travelers from the mainland visited Hong Kong within the 8-day Golden Week. On average, there were around 140,000 mainland visitors coming to Hong Kong each day during the Golden Week. The peak was recorded on the October 1st National Day, with 180,000 mainland tourists visiting Hong Kong. Most of them entered the borders via the West Kowloon station. The city's hotels saw 90% occupancy rate. The mainland has seen more than 11.8 million entry and exit trips made during the 8-day holidays, according to data from the National Immigration Administration. Infectious diseases specialist Professor Ivan Hong said influenza and COVID will take turns in causing outbreaks every half year. He says the peak of the flu season is already ending, but added a coronavirus outbreak may occur next month. The city's influenza cases are continuing on an upward trend, with the newest positive rate figure reaching around 14%. That's the highest since the start of the summer flu season in August. As of the end of September, 122 people have died from the flu. The professor says the peak of the winter flu season will appear between February and April next year. Hong noted more elderly and high-risk individuals contracted the coronavirus lately despite receiving 3 jabs. He advised them to get the latest COVID jab, which is likely to come out next month. Police are still in search of a 17-year-old boy who has been missing for 4 days. Tonight, officers have narrowed down the search area to near Ma On Shan Country Park. That's after the latest information suggests he was last spotted walking in that direction from Siu Lek Yuen at around 2:30 p.m. Wednesday. Earlier, police and rescuers continued the operation near Tai Shui Hang and Mui Tsi Lam in Sha Tin. Matthew was a student from Diocesan Boys School and is about 1.6 meters tall. He was out of reach after exiting Shek Mun MTR station in his school uniform on Wednesday afternoon. A team formed by the school's alumni have already searched areas including Mong Kok and Sai Kung. Anyone with information should contact the police. U.S. President Joe Biden said he could potentially meet with President Xi Jinping next month, but details have not been confirmed. China said there have been communications between the two countries, but has not confirmed whether the two leaders are meeting in person.
President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Joe Biden last met face-to-face on the sidelines of the G20 Leaders Summit in Bali in November last year. The two countries were then embroiled in a spy balloon saga. Later on, the U.S. said that there was a need to decouple from China. Now, all eyes are on whether the two leaders will meet again during the APEC summit set to be held in San Francisco next month. On Friday, Biden commented on the possibility in the White House.
What are the prospects for a meeting between you and President Xi of China in San Francisco next month?
There has been no such meeting set up, but it is a possibility.
The Washington Post quoted U.S. officials as saying the White House is working to arrange a face-to-face meeting next month. Some of them are pretty firm that the two will meet, while others say the plan has not been confirmed by China. Earlier, U.S. media wrote that Wang Yi, director of China's Office of Foreign Affairs Commission, could be visiting America later this month to pave way for a possible Xi-Biden meeting. Liu Pengyu, a spokesman for the Chinese embassy in Washington, said the two countries are in communication on bilateral engagement and exchange, and they must clear obstacles and manage differences with concrete actions. Reuters, meanwhile, quoted from U.S. officials that the Biden administration hopes to establish channels of communication with China and ensuring they don't veer into conflict. But Washington's curb on the export of chip-making equipment to China meant it's difficult for both sides to talk. Critics on the mainland believe that the U.S. will continue to clamp down on high-tech enterprises from China, including telecom giant Huawei. They noted if the U.S. do not solve problems, then there's no point of having a meeting between the two.
A bipartisan congressional delegation led by U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has landed in Shanghai in a trip they hope can push U.S. business interests. The group of 6 senators say they hope to meet Xi Jinping while in China. Schumer says they will focus on the need for fairness for U.S. businesses. Tensions between Washington and Beijing have been strained this year. The group will also go to South Korea and Japan. Still ahead on tonight's news, Israel declares state of war after Hamas attack. Donald Trump endorses Jim Jordan's bid to become House Speaker. And farewell to the late Senator Dianne Feinstein. Welcome back to TVB News. Israel says it is at war after Palestinian gunmen infiltrated the country in a surprise attack. Thousands of rockets were fired from Gaza by Hamas into Israel. David Garrett reports.
Gunfire was heard in the southern Israeli city Sderot. Residents were filming battles outside of their windows. A gun battle was taking place in the street outside. Israel confirmed Hamas have carried out an unprecedented infiltration after firing more than 2,000 rockets. The sound of missiles filled the air while gun battles took place below. The attack comes after tensions along the Israel-Gaza border. Hamas calls it Operation Al-Aqsa Storm. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told his people, "We are at war. This is not an operation. We are at war." Many Israelis were already all too clear of the seriousness of the situation. The attack from Hamas came on a Jewish holiday, and it appears Israel was caught off guard. This is the most serious escalation of fighting since a 10-day war in 2021. Air raid sirens were heard in Ashkelon as smoke filled the sky. Damage was reported to vehicles and property, but Israel said there have been human casualties. There is fighting at the border. Palestinian men were seen on Israeli tanks and hostages have been taken. There are reports of dead soldiers. Israel has maintained a blockade of Gaza since Hamas took control of the territory in 2007. There have been several outbreaks of fighting since then. There has also been heavy fighting recently in the West Bank. Israel say they are fighting militants. Palestinian protesters and civilians have been among the 200 killed by Israel's raids this year. The government in Tel Aviv has approved a call-up of reservists and has launched strikes on Gaza in retaliation. Smoke was filmed emanating from a building in Gaza City. Many families in Gaza are trying to flee, fearing an intense bombardment from Israel. But some youths and boys were seen on the streets cheering. David Garrett, TVB News.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump is endorsing Congressman Jim Jordan to replace ousted U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Tracy Furness has more.
2 Republican lawmakers are campaigning for the position of U.S. House Speaker. Donald Trump has backed outspoken conservative from Ohio, Jim Jordan, who also led investigations into the Biden administration, and Louisiana Representative Steve Scalise, who was second to Kevin McCarthy in the leadership ladder. Republicans, who control the House of Representatives by a narrow 221 to 212 margin, are due to hold a closed-door forum for candidates seeking the speakership on Wednesday. Former President Trump may attend the meeting, and if so, it would be his first visit to the Capitol since January 6, 2021, when his supporters attacked the building to prevent lawmakers from certifying his 2020 White House defeat. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden said he would try to work with whoever becomes the next House Speaker.
Whomever the House Speaker is, I'm going to try to work with. They control half the Congress, and I'm going to try to work with them. There's some people I imagine it's going to be easier to work with than others, but whoever the Speaker is, I'll try to work with.
Kevin McCarthy was the first ever House Speaker to be ousted after angering hardline critics in his party. 45 allies of McCarthy are calling on their Republican colleagues for fundamental changes that would make it more difficult for a small faction to oust the House Speaker. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
A memorial service was held in San Francisco to honor the life and legacy of Senator Dianne Feinstein, who died on September 29th at the age of 90.
As a public servant, Dianne had the courage to take on the many tough fights, even when she was faced with fierce opposition and political peril, and especially when her work was in defense of the Constitution and the security of the American people. Dianne commanded respect, and she gave respect.
The memorial service for Senator Feinstein took place at San Francisco City Hall with notable politicians in attendance, including U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, and former U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Harris highlighted Feinstein's role in advancing women's rights, and Schumer expressed gratitude for her decades of service. Feinstein was the oldest sitting U.S. Senator and member of Congress. The controversy continues to escalate over U.S. President Joe Biden's decision to break an election pledge and build a wall along the Texas-Mexican border to stop illegal immigrants. Even leading politicians from his own Democratic Party are speaking out against the decision. NBC has more.
Tonight on the border, the ongoing surge in illegal crossings, averaging more than 9,000 a day in just the last week. Border officials tell NBC News. And now new fallout after that broken campaign pledge from President Biden, funding nearly 20 miles of new border wall in Starr County, Texas. The president again today defending the decision.
Well, I was told that I had no choice. I can't say I don't like it. I'm not going to do it.
The money allocated by Congress during the Trump administration. Mr. Biden saying he tried to get lawmakers to change it, but they refused, and the law required the wall money to be spent. Now he's facing bipartisan criticism, including from key Democrats upset over the new wall.
I think it's a terrible idea. I think it's a broken promise.
After then candidate Biden said this during the campaign.
There will not be another foot of wall constructed on my administration.
While Republicans say Biden border policies are encouraging the migrant surge, reactions tonight here in Starr County, where the additional wall would go up.
We need more 20 miles, make it 40 or 60.
County Judge Eloy Vera says he still has not been told where exactly the wall would go.
We have a lot of questions, and personally, a lot of things that I don't agree with.
The Rio Grande Valley needs a solution,
yes,
but you don't believe the wall's the answer.
Exactly.
The move comes as so many keep making the dangerous trek north. At a border shelter, we met Grecia from Venezuela and Rosa from Ecuador, who say they were robbed in Mexico and frightened, but want to work hard here for their families. A dream shared by so many others that today, while visiting Mexico City, New York City's Mayor Eric Adams shared what he says is the sobering reality, with New York City's resources stretched thin by 120,000 migrants.
We want to give a real picture of what's happening in New York City. We are at capacity.
Back locally, 15 people aged 18 to 28 have been convicted of rioting near the Polytechnic University in November 2019 during anti-government unrest. 10 were sentenced to between 46 and 49 months in jail. The judge reduced the prison term with the defendants because they didn't carry much gear during the riots and believes they have a lower chance of repeat offences. All but one defendant pleaded not guilty. The other 5 were minors at the time and have been sentenced to a training center. Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, Christopher Ho, said the JPEX fraud scandal shed light on the lack of regulatory bodies for unlicensed cryptocurrency exchange platforms. Authorities have received over 2,500 reports related to the JPEX case involving more than $1.5 billion. The financial services chief said the government may need to review its regulatory system for such unlicensed bodies, offering more protection for investors and financial stability. That's the news. Thanks for watching.